YouTube was good family. So they're saying that the dude Ryan Wedding, who was basically, they may have been geeking him a little bit, but they saying that he was like El Chapo, but he's from Canada, the Canadian El Chapo drug smuggling. He's low key goated, GOATED. All right, we finna watch the video because they saying that he got captured by the FBI director.
Why would a man on the FBI's most wanted list ever turn himself in? He's accused of not only being a major drug trafficker and high-ranking member of the Sinaloa cartel, but he's also accused of at least 2 murders. Any one of these accusations, if proven, could put him in a federal prison for the rest of his life. He's potentially a billionaire, and his wife and 2 girlfriends laundered so much money for him that they got put on a U.S. sanction list. And according to the U.S., he was being protected by the Sinaloa cartel. So, what is he, an informant or something?
We're in a wire? Huh? You're setting me up?
Because that's immediately what I thought when I realized that he wasn't caught and that he, in fact, just walked into the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City and surrendered. But CBC News in Canada interviewed a man identified as a Sinaloa cartel operative just a month before Ryan Wedding was taken into custody. And the operative said he did not believe that Wedding was being protected by the Sinaloa cartel or that he was in Mexico City, because Mexico City is the most surveilled city in the country. Which is interesting, not only because Mexico City is precisely where Ryan Wedding was when he got arrested, but in 2018, the Sinaloa cartel hacked into the camera system of Mexico's most surveilled city and used it to follow an FBI official as he met up with people of interest, with some of these people being informants. Which is terrifying. If you're the FBI agent going to what you believe are secret meetups, when in reality, you're being watched by a very dangerous group. But of course, I guess in that field, you should already suspect that could be a possibility.
No creo que esté protegido por el cartel de Sinaloa, ni que esté en la Ciudad de México tampoco, siendo que la Ciudad de México es de las... Al momento de agarrarlo, ahí vas a sacar la noticia grande. Y lo van a inflar como una noticia gigante.
But as for the operative, it's hard to tell if he's lying because, of course, it would be stupid to admit on camera that a man on the FBI's most wanted list is being protected by your people, or if he genuinely believes the US hyped up Ryan to be a bigger target than he already was, which he claims was done so that when Ryan was finally captured, it would be a big news story. Like it was. But he almost sounds as if he expected this to happen. Which, sure, once Ryan's name appeared on the FBI's most wanted list, it was only a matter of time anyway. He had already been running his part of what the FBI calls a billion-dollar operation since 2011. But he's only been on the most wanted list since 2025. So why turn yourself in? Did he just give up? Or did he believe he would be able to make a deal? And if so, what kind of deal? The FBI likely wants information and names that would surely mark him for death if he ever did get out of prison. Maybe he could give up some names. Because while the FBI calls him a high-ranking member of the Sinaloa cartel, the Sinaloa is not the same as it was when Ryan first came to Mexico. It's very well known that the cartel actually split into 2 rival factions that are at war with each other. If Wedding did manage to ally himself with one side after the split, that would mean he has information on both sides of the conflict. So in theory, he could give up information on the rival faction without throwing his allies under the bus. Because if he did pick a side...
So you saying the cartel split in 2, and if he gets caught right now, he may be able to turn himself in and snitch on the other side of the cartel. But do y'all think that's even possible? I think that if you snitch on any side of the cartel, if they do let you out, your ass finna die.
The guys will want to kill him anyway. But even so, would that be worth turning yourself in when
Absolutely.
The FBI is clearly going to parade you like a cartel leader? Primarily because in January 2025, the FBI accuses Ryan, along with other men, of killing a federal witness in Medellin, Colombia. And this witness has been identified as Jonathan Acevedo Garcia. And Jonathan was only able to become a cooperating witness because he was part of Ryan's operation. Because according to the FBI, after being grown in Colombia, the product will be sent to Mexico City, then Sinaloa, and LA before...
So this is the route from Canada to LA. How do they do that? The drug is processed in Medellin. Oh, it goes this way. Medellin, shipped to North Mexico, Mexico City, where they're saying he was based at. It then goes through semi-trucks. We read about somebody whose name is like El Pristo or something. I think they have connections with different people who are able to bypass a lot of the checkpoints, and so that's how they're getting it all the way through. So they're getting it from there to L.A. This is a long ride with all that weight on you, man. L.A. I drove L.A. to Chicago before. It was a 24-hour drive. So they got big trucks and all of that stuff via the Michigan border. I see. Damn. And they getting they getting billions of dollars worth of drugs.
Really
off
making
that
it to
way.
Canada and Toronto and then Montreal, which is where Jonathan operated. And his murder wasn't just a case of cartel brutality. This murder was allegedly committed on the advice of a Toronto lawyer, who literally goes by the name Cocaine Lawyer on social media.
What?
Now, corrupt or not, this is a
cocaine
man with a
lawyer
law
killed-
degree
killed a
that
witness?
allegedly told Wedding the case would be dismissed if he killed a witness.
Oh, yeah,
And according to
that's
LA
wrong.
Mag, an associate of Wedding reached out to the Dirty News, which is a Canadian blog centered on organized crime in Canada. And this associate allegedly sent the blog a picture of Jonathan with a $10,000 payment to have the blog post Jonathan's picture and call him a snitch,
For 10
while also
bands.
agreeing to keep Ryan Wedding's face off the website. And the Dirty News was a trusted source that provided deep insight into organized crime all over Canada. And I've even used them as a source on certain information in my Asian Gangs
So
of
they're
Canada
reliable.
video. But the last time I visited the
But they got
blog, I was
seized.
met with this
I seen
message
this on
saying that it had been
wait,
seized
I
by
seen it
law
on-
enforcement,
I seen
which
this
I didn't
on First
understand
website.
at first.
You know what I mean?
But it says the blog
so
was
it's like,
taken
oh,
down as part of Operation
part of a
Slalom,
task
which
force
makes
for the
sense,
FBI.
as that is the name of the
Ryan
sport
Wedding
Ryan Wedding competed
Criminal
in for the
Enterprise.
2002 Winter Olympics. But if the cocaine lawyer did advise Ryan to
Been
get
doing
rid
this
of a
for about a
witness
year.
and suggest the case would be dismissed if he did so, could that be the reason he turned himself in? Because if this is true, then the lawyer must have believed the FBI had a weak case, even though Jonathan has supposedly been in contact with the FBI for around a year before his death.
I see.
Now, the US government frames the surrender of Wedding as the result of, quote, pressure applied by Mexican and US law enforcement. However, according to a security analyst that regularly appears in Mexican media, through conversations with his sources in Mexican security and law enforcement, he claims that the surrender instead came through negotiations and that the FBI director, Kash Patel, traveled to Mexico City at the time Wedding agreed to surrender to make it look like it was all thanks to him. Which apparently isn't true, at least according to the analyst, CBC News in Canada, and even ABC News in the US seem to be aware of this. And all of this would kind of coincide with the Sinaloa cartel operative insisting that Ryan Wedding's capture would be more of a show than something actually meaningful. It also doesn't help the narrative pushed by some, including a former FBI agent, that Patel is kind of bad at his job. And this whole situation kind of reminds me of an American man
thought he
who,
just
like
got on
Wedding,
like a
is
year
a
or two
foreigner
ago.
that held a
I
position in the
discussed
Mexican
him in the
cartel,
leader of the
and he's
FBI.
known as La Barbie, which is due to his blue eyes. And in the 2 years leading up to his arrest, he provided information to the DEA and the FBI. And although he isn't considered to be an informant against the cartel he was working for, he did provide the US with crucial information about corrupt Mexican officials who revealed the identities of DEA agents working in Mexico to his cartel and the Sinaloa cartel. And despite this leaking information from corrupt Mexican officials possibly resulting in the death of a DEA agent, none of this seemed to help Barbie, as he was still sentenced to nearly 50 years in prison. But he probably wasn't advised to do any of this by a lawyer, or at least he wasn't reported to. And that takes us back to the cocaine lawyer, which again is what he called himself. If the prosecution wanted to frame Wedding as a ruthless drug lord, surely it would fit the narrative more if getting rid of the witness was his idea. But the lawyer was actually charged for his alleged role in the plot as the one who advised it. But after offering over $5 million, he was granted bail in Canada despite the fact that he was facing extradition to the United States. Which is pretty crazy, considering the fact that he's being accused of conspiracy to commit murder. And the Attorney General even states that the evidence against him is overwhelming. But could this just be a bluff? The lawyer doesn't go by that nickname for no reason. He specializes in cases involving drug traffickers, and he's been a lawyer for 30 years. So was his alleged statement to Wedding correct? And does the FBI have a weak case? Kash Patel called Wedding a modern-day Pablo Escobar, which seems like an exaggeration. For one, he was a foreigner.
He couldn't be the modern-day Pablo Escobar or the modern-day El Chapo because those two people are from those original countries. You can't, I don't think it's like, yes, you can have a lot of power. He could probably have a big name there. But do y'all think that any foreigner can go into Mexico or Colombia or whatever and get the same amount of power as somebody who was grown up or raised up in these same families? I don't even think that's possible. But it do sound damn good to say you picked up the modern day Pablo Escobar. This was my job. I say the same thing. Do your research.
Mexico. So unlike Escobar, who actually was the head of a cartel, it's hard for me to believe that Wedding outranked most people in either faction of the Sinaloa cartel. Just like my Asian Gangs in Mexico video, where I covered the Chinese money launderers working with certain Mexican cartels, Wedding may have been respected and indeed held some position of authority, but to suggest he was like Pablo Escobar seems a bit too far. Now, a guy named Owen Hansen, an American that trafficked tons of drugs for the Sinaloa cartel in both Australia and the United States, managed to only serve 7 of the 21 years he was sentenced after cooperating with authorities in both countries. But unlike Ryan, he wasn't accused of any violent crime. So the FBI having a weak case on the murder of their witness seems to be the only way Ryan can avoid a life sentence. And that's only if he cooperates. But the fact that every report about his arrest state that there were some negotiations involved, I have to wonder what the terms were. You would think they must have been pretty favorable for him to turn himself in, because the fact that he was able to move around Mexico freely for so long means that he very well could have continued as a free man, although on the run for the rest of his life. But only time will tell, I guess, as even one of El Chapo's sons, Joaquin, is expected to avoid a life sentence as part of his plea deal with the US government and an agreement to pay $80 million. But this case will either play out really fast or really slow. And either way it ends, I'm sure questions will still remain. But thank you guys for watching as always. Remember to never stop.
Ryan Wedding finally got caught. Y'all know we saw when they first put him on the FBI most wanted list last year. Like, I like to stay up to date with this type of stuff because it's like the real global news. Because sometimes it's like you ain't finna work your normal life and make what Ryan made by smuggling across countries. He made billions off that lifestyle. That's something different. I'm more like Focused, but I make some money, man. I appreciate you watching this video with me. Stay tuned because we got plenty more content like this coming. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. If y'all don't do any of those things, I'll see y'all in the next video. I'm out.